Hello my dear YouTuber friends, I hope you're all keeping well. This is part 2 of my around the world flight in Flight Simulator 2020. If you've not seen my original video, the part 1, go and look at that, I'll link it in the top right. In that video I flew from Goodwood, which is near my hometown, over to Gatwick Airport. In this video we've got a more international feel. We're going to be flying from Gatwick Airport over to Charles de Gaulle Airport near Paris. So we're going to be leaving the UK. I'm going to adjust the time zone because I don't want to do a night flight to daytime. I'm going to have the weather on live, so whatever the world throws at us, we're going to be flying through. And I'm also going to be flying a different aircraft, the Beechcraft King Air aircraft. The reason I'm flying this is because I took a look at the tour of Japan. It's basically an event you can do, but you can only fly the Beechcraft King Air. So I flew it and I got used to it, and I got used to the autopilot, and now I absolutely love it. I wouldn't have flown this aircraft if it wasn't through flying this event. I'm so glad I've got to know this aircraft. It's a lovely aircraft, as you'll see. Fantastic fun aircraft, and great for international flights or flights like this as well. Okay, let's not make the intro too long. Let's get on with the actual flight plan. So we're going to go from Gatwick. We can see it on the map. We'll click on it and click set as departure. It's likely to take us from one of the 26 left or right, 26 left in this case. We'll click on Charles de Gaulle, left click and set as arrival. Oh, it's put us back to the standard time. Let's change that to daytime. That'll do. Okay. In Charles de Gaulle, I want to change the runway. Basically, let's zoom into details there. It's going to take us landing this way. I want to land this way, on this runway, in fact. So I'm going to choose 09 right. And now, as you can see, it's going to take us here. Now, as you can see, coming in from that flight path, this aircraft is quite quick. If you're used to flying Cessnas, it's about twice the speed. So it's a fast aircraft. Flying in and then landing is not a good idea like that. Likewise, zoom out. Come on. From Gatwick, zoom in. Taking off and turning immediately right onto the flight path is not ideal. So what I'm going to do there, from the from box here. Oh, first, I almost jumped a step there. I'm going to change it from visual flight rules to instrument flight rules. Basically, visual flight rules will mean if you can visually see landmarks and you're flying visually. Instrument relies more on instruments, and it will change your flight path accordingly. You've got low altitudes and high altitude airways with your IFR. I'm going to choose the low altitude airways. But as you can see, it's changed our flight plan and put waypoints or VORs and goodness knows what in the flight plan, which is good. But back to what I was saying there. So I've changed that. Important to change that if you want to follow this video to instrument flight rules and low altitude airways. It will just fly us lower than the sort of airliners, as it were. Zoom to details. I don't want us to take off and immediately turn a sharp, very sharp right there. So in this from box, I'm going to add a SID, which for those new to flight simulators is standard instrument departure. Standard instrument departure. I'll put my teeth back in now. And basically here, from this box here, you can choose a SID so you're not flying that insane angle. And I know a good SID that doesn't alter the flight path too much, because I've tested it, is the BOG N1M 26 left SID. So click on that, left click there, it will add it to your flight plan. As you can see, it's not altered it too much. Actually, BOG I think stands for Bognor, which is again near close by me. So we'll be flying in this direction. This yellow line is your SID, that's the rest of it's your normal flight plan. Likewise, if we go to Charles de Gaulle, like I said before, I don't want to be flying that flight plan and then make a very sharp turn right onto the runway. So I'm going to add a star, which is your standard arrival. So we go to the 2 box here, go to this box here, approach, and then we're going to land on 26 right. We'll choose ILS 26 right from that drop down box. Left click it. As you can see, it's not changed the flight plan too much, but it's going to put us on a very nice approach. Don't worry about that line there, that disappears. A very nice approach, straight approach into landing, which is ideal. Don't worry about that line, it does disappear if you zoom in. It's basically a... Oops. Ah! How do I... no, I didn't want to do that. There we go. It's basically a straight line in. So there you go. Once we get to this part of our flight plan, this part of our star, it will take us on a long approach into landing, which is ideal. Okay, a couple of other things we need to change there. First thing we need to do, let's zoom out a bit more. This circle, basically, if I go to my aircraft, first let me click on the aircraft. As you can see, it's the Beechcraft King Air. Come on, speak properly. Go to weight and balance. As you can see, we've got 50% fuel in the aircraft, and 50% fuel will fly us roughly where that circle is. So anywhere in that circle we can fly on 50% fuel from our starting airport, which is Gatwick. We don't need that much fuel, we're only taking this short journey. And I know if I change that to 25%, click about halfway, come on, bit more, 24, 20, awkward, 26% will do. Oh, let's be more perfect than that. 25% fuel, there we go. So changing that to 25%, you can see the circle has now shrunk. We can fly anywhere within that circle with that amount of fuel. It's more than enough to take us to Charles de Gaulle Airport. And if necessary, we could divert. In real life, if you needed to divert because that airport's closed or it's got an emergency and you can't land there, stop doing that. Then you could divert if necessary. It's a simulator, that's not going to happen here. Just want to make sure nothing's changed there. I didn't click anything inadvertently. I haven't. It's very awkward when you're mousing around and pressing the mouse buttons, you may add something. Anyway, so there you go, that's set now. 25% fuel will take us there to there easily. Another thing I want to do there is click on nav log. Now, it wants us to start descending at Velo, or just before. I'm going to start descending around here to get down to 9,000 feet by Mopar, or Mopar. So Velo, start descending just before then to get down to 9,000 feet here, and from there I'll set it to 2,500 feet roughly to take us into a nice landing. So when you're doing this, also your cruise altitude. I might have jumped the gun a bit there. I know, because I've just done this flight about an hour ago. 13,000 feet takes us smack bang in the middle of some clouds. So you can't see a thing. Normally you wouldn't fly in clouds. If that was the case, if that was your assigned altitude before you began flying, and you started flying in real life and you were in the middle of clouds, you would talk to ATC and you would say, I want to climb to a higher altitude to get out of these clouds. I know that that's too low. That will put us in clouds, so I'm going to change that to 16,000 feet. And as you can see now, it's asking us to descend a little bit more before Velo now. That descent has moved forward or backwards on this line. But we want to descend a little bit, quite a bit before we get to Velo to get to 9,000 feet to here. Except not a lot has changed, but I know that's a good altitude to fly in the current weather. if you want to test that, go for a test flight and just see where the clouds are and see how far you would have to get up to get above the clouds. That's what I did. Well, I went for a test flight and just ascended. If I didn't adjust that, ATC will moan at me. I've got ATC on, and I'm going to leave it on during this flight. It's a bit peculiar when it comes to descend. It won't let you descend, or it won't tell you to descend till it's too late. So I may override it on descent, but climbing, if I had that set to 13,000 feet, it would moan at me if I went higher, telling me to go back down to 13,000. So I'll set it at 16,000. I know that's a good altitude. Okay, so there we go. With that all set now, we've got our live weather. Let's just check again. Live weather. We've checked our nav log. I know when to start descending. And we've got our flight plan. Let's fly. I want to aim this series more towards the newer player or intermediate player. I class myself as intermediate because I've been flying flight sims for some time and I know many of the systems, but I'm still quite a newbie, particularly to this flight simulator. So as much as I'm learning, I hope you're learning along with me. Sorry, I do seem to have a frog in my throat today for some reason. I'll take a drink of water, see if that helps. Try not to slurp while I'm recording. So I'm letting the AI handle the radios. I'll be handling the aircraft and instruments and goodness knows what. It's not going to be by the book. For example, I'm taking off from the runway. I'm not taking off from a ramp. If you want to learn how to start up this aircraft, just go through the checklist. Okay, so there you go. We can see it's a little bit cloudy. Not too bad. The clouds seem to have cleared up since they last flown. Actually, it's quite clear now, isn't that typical? We're going to keep our altitude at 16,000 just in case we do get clouds. And we'll start it. Now, a couple of things... Oops, what's the aircraft doing? A couple of things to set up. I want to put my flaps down to position 1. There's 2 stages of flaps in this aircraft. You've got flaps 1 and flaps 2, basically. I can check that. I can see outside my flaps are down. I can see here my flaps are down. You can check that inside as well, of course, but I thought I'll just show you that. Get back to the actual main view here. I'm going to click on Flight Director in anticipation for turning my autopilots on. On these types of aircraft, typically you'll have to click on Flight Director to start to ensure that the autopilot functions, the various ones we're going to do, function correctly. Now, I know it asked me to climb, and we're flying with ATC. Excuse me, I do apologise. We're flying with ATC. I know it's going to ask us to climb roughly to about between 6,000 and 8,000 feet. So I'm going to set my alt. I'm mousing up on this alt wheel. And as you can see here, my altitude for the autopilot, it's not my current altitude, I'm at 0 at the moment. But I'm setting my autopilot altitude so that when I turn on autopilot, I'll assign it to climb to 6,000 feet. That frog in my throat is not disappearing. I do apologise. It's just one of those things. What can I say? I didn't expect it to happen when I'm recording. Anyway, 6,000 feet to begin with. We know we got to climb to 16,000, so I'll change that later to 16 when we're cleared to go to 16,000. By the way, to get to that view, I just held down left control, and number 2 is the default view, or default keys to get into that view. Control and 1 is for this screen, Control and 2 for that screen, Control and 4 were for these instruments down here. That's the default settings for quick views in this aircraft. I've got a button to recenter my view back to cockpit on my throttle, and I'll link a video showing you some assignments that you can set to your controller, so you can do that as well. So I've clicked on flight director. With that all set, we're ready to take off. So I'm going to throttle full forward. Be aware of the throttle in this aircraft. It does like to get away from you. You don't have auto throttle. You have to manually control the throttle yourself. We rotate at 100 knots roughly, and we land at roughly the same speed as well. Release the parking brake. Isn't that typical? The clouds have completely cleared. Last I flew this an hour ago and the clouds were beautiful. Never mind. Hopefully we'll get some clouds during our journey. The nose wants to rise a bit there. I'm pushing forward on my yoke to lower that nose until it's time to take off, which is roughly there. Positive rate, gear up, all that palaver. So now we've taken off, I'm going to start setting this in autopilot. This is going to be quite quick. I'm going to click on autopilot first. Click on nav so it follows our course. Click on virtual. It likes to have yaw dampener on as well. It doesn't like me. Can't click it there. I have to go to this view to click it for some reason. I'm going to set my my throttle. See, already I'll put my flaps up. And I'll also just lower my throttle physically a little bit. I'm going to click on virtual speed, mouse down here, mouse up here rather, on this wheel, mouse up. And as you can see there's a little line here showing that I want the aircraft to climb roughly about 1,000 feet per minute. If I mouse down I can have it climb quicker. Mouse up on my mouse wheel, I can have it climb a little bit slower. About 1,000 feet per minute will do there for this initial climb. I missed what ATC was saying there. Right, it's not asking me to climb to an altitude yet, that's good. If you miss what ATC tells you, click on the ATC button here and you can read the few previous messages that ATC have been saying. You can see here I've got too much torque, my throttle is set too high and I'm speeding up quite rapidly too. I'm going to go down a couple of inches on my physical throttle until that disappears, the torque disappears from there. I do have my flaps up, that's good. We don't want to get in this red line, so when we do get to level flight, I want to be at around 220 to 230 speed. There's quite a lot happening there with the autopilot. So basically I clicked autopilot, I clicked nav so it follows the course of our flight plan. The plane will then automatically follow the flight plan. Click on virtual speed and then mouse up or down on this wheel to either climb or descend. So in this case I use my mouse wheel down to set my virtual climb to 1,000 feet per minute roughly. So that's what I've done. It also likes to have yaw dampener on or you get a warning light. Not fully sure why there, maybe someone can inform me. I could look it up of course, and I probably will after this video, but there you go. So we're flying on quite a clear day, not the clouds I had before which were beautiful to see, which is a shame. But at least we can see jolly old England below us. Beautiful, these little towns and detail. Look at the detail there. Beautiful. Never gets boring. Is it asking me to climb yet? Continue as planned. So I'm going to climb to 6,000 feet regardless, because it will assign me an altitude in a moment. The ATC. You can see here our aircraft's going to be following our flight plan. Now let's hold down control and free. We can zoom into this screen here. I'll get a closer look at this screen. You can zoom into the map by pressing the plus. Zoom out so you get a wider view of where you're going by pressing the minus. You can left click and hold down, it's a touch screen to see the rest of your flight plan basically. If you lose where your aircraft is, press this aircraft symbol it will take you back to where your aircraft currently is on the map. It's quite a handy thing to know. And I found this out by doing that Japan tour, in fact. So there you go. It was well worth doing for that reason. So we're somewhat coming up to our 6,000 feet altitude. If it doesn't tell us to climb in a moment, I'm going to climb regardless to our 16,000 feet. It's just told us to take off, nothing else at the moment. It usually tells us, it assigns us an altitude generally. There is some cloud ahead, so we might get lucky to see some cloud as well, because it is a beautiful sight. You should have been here when I was recording this before. It was like a test flight. Now I've come back to level flight, by the way. You can see my speed is starting to creep into that red. I'm going to control my throttle physically. I'm decreasing it physically. You can see better up here. I'm slowly decreasing now in speed, which is good. I want it to go even slower than that, to around 240 maximum. As long as we don't start getting in that red line. And watch the red things. If these get flashing red talk messages here, it means that your speed is too high. You need to pull back a bit. You notice I've not done things like landing lights and goodness knows what. I'm keeping this newbie friendly. I'm pretending the AI has controlled that. There's quite a lot going on to begin with, so I didn't want to overload what was going on. Anyway, it's now not assigned us an altitude for some reason, and that's fine. 10,000, so that's 10,000 feet. I can see from here actually. Let's move the mouse in a way. Move the view a little bit. So he wants us to go to 10,000 feet. Oh. So I've done that. I can click on virtual speed, mouse down again to set my rate of climb, which is about 1,000 feet per minute, which is fine there. Get back to the normal view. And now we're climbing to 10,000 feet. Lovely plane to fly because of that autopilot feature. And thankfully the last patch hasn't buggered up the autopilot in this aircraft in particular. Let's just get a view outside. You can see some clouds coming up ahead, which will be nice. Lovely view of that south coast of England, flying past Bognor Regis there, I believe. Look at that. Lovely. Lovely. As soon as we get to our cruise altitude, by the way, there's not an awful lot to see. It's going to make this video extremely long if I did the whole flight, so I'll probably get to our cruise altitude and then cut it when we get near to our descent, which I believe is Velo. So about here I'll start descending. I may wait for the ATC to assign me, but generally it assigns me to descend too late. We'll see how that goes. Press the plane symbol to get back to where your aircraft is on the map. Back to our standard view. By the way, this is a passenger plane. Sure, quite a few of you know that already, but for those who don't, you can see that. Click on that camera symbol at the top here. Go to your top. Click on the camera symbol. Click on Quick View. And Quick View 2 will show you our invisible passengers. With very strange shadows and lighting going on there. Well, the game's not perfect, but it's close to it. In some respects. Graphically, at least. And actually flying this is lovely. So happy to have found this aircraft. And discovered it through that Japan update. Be interesting to see what the USA update brings. What aircraft will fly there. It's a good way of actually trying aircraft you wouldn't normally think of trying. I wouldn't have thought of trying the Beechcraft. Loving it now, I have indeed. One of my go-to aircrafts. And as I was saying before, I didn't want to do a sort of a startup, cold and dark startup and taxi to the runway. It would have made this video massive for a start. And I just want to get flying sometimes. This series is about flying. I will, during this series that I'm doing, my Around the World tour with the A320, which I want to fly in this. Obviously I'll be doing a cold and dark on that and setting up the MCDU and goodness knows what. With these types of aircraft, I'll generally just start them on the runway. You've got an easy set of checklist here you can follow, starting before start engine. It's all done now, of course, because we're flying. But easy set of checklists, just follow them through. Did she say 15, not 16? 15, yeah. Okay, so I'll adjust my alt there, you can see here. I'll move the camera down so you can see clearer. 15,000, and I'll show you again how to do this. Oh, it went away from me there. 15,000. Click on virtual speed VS. Mouse down over this wheel to set your climb. It was actually still climbing, so I didn't need to do that. And now we'll climb to 15,000. Jolly good. And hopefully she'll clear me to 16,000 soon. Let me know. Like I say, I'm going to climb to our cruise altitude. If in future you would like to see the entire flights, depending how long the flights are, if I'm doing a 7-hour flight, I'll go and make myself some dinner or something, or multiple cups of teas and read a book while it's flying. I'm not going to record a 7-hour flight, but on these kind of flights, half an hour, 45 minutes. If you would like to see the whole flight, let me know. Like I said, once I get to our cruise altitude, I'll probably cut it a little bit so we get to a more interesting part, but do let me know. And as you can see, I've made a few mistakes already with this aircraft. One thing I do want to do, Control and 4, I want to set my anti-ice on, because it can ice up, even though there's not many clouds. It can ice up. Set these to normal. Can't do these ones, but that will do it. That will clear any ice problems you'll get. So if you do find this aircraft icing up, you've got clouds. It was icing up before for me because I was flying through clouds. And when you fly through clouds in this simulator, it does seem to like to initiate icing. So you have to use your anti-ice, otherwise your aircraft will start to malfunction. So there you can see quite a long way to go. We're just coming to 15,000, 12,000 in fact, so some way to go there. Let's go outside. Lovely. Lovely. Apologise, I'm in high spirits tonight. It's a weekend, I've had a busy week of work, so it's nice to have a couple of days to relax and recuperate. Some lovely details going on there, some cliffs it looks like. You can't see as much detail from this high, of course. It's a shame we don't have oh, there's the moon. It's a shame we don't have as many clouds, although we are flying into a layer of clouds here, as you can see. So that cloud front I flew through before had moved on. I'm using real world weather, don't forget, so it's moved on and moved forward. So we will be getting into that cloud, and if we assigned our altitude right at the beginning to 13,000, as you can see, we would have been smack bang in the middle of these clouds coming up. They are coming we are going towards that direction. So it could be by the time we reach Paris, or Charles de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle Airport, we could be descending through clouds, of course. Which will be nice. It's nice to have some clouds. It adds to the realism. Excellent note. So I flew an hour ago. That front, cloud front, had already moved forward. And it's clear outside where I am in real life at the moment. So that's pretty accurate. That cloud front had moved more towards Europe. Or sort of Paris, Germany, that type of thing. Is it going to clear us the 16,000? You might as well stick with me. 15,000, that's fine. So as you can see, very simple. Running through the autopilot again, make sure flight director is on to begin with. Flight director is on to begin with. Let's slow down. Set an altitude. If you're flying ATC, don't go, I'd say 6,000 to begin with, and then go further when ATC assigns you. So set an altitude with this knob. There we go. I'll finish what I was saying in a moment, but let's just get this to 16,000. Are we still climbing? No. So I've got to click that virtue. You can see if it says turn it on, you've got to turn it on again. Mouse down to set a climb. Oops. Don't need to move that. In fact, it will stay where it was, which is good, and it will climb to 16,000. So what I was saying about the autopilot, before you start flying, flight director on, assign an altitude using that knob. When you want to turn on your autopilot, it's AP for autopilot, click it. Likes to have your dampener on as well, this aircraft. Click on nav and it will follow your flight plan. And then you just saw what I did there. Set your virtual rate of climb or descent. Click on VS and mouse up or mouse down on the wheel. Mouse down to climb up, to climb. Mouse up to dive, to descend. And that's it. Then you can leave it on and your aircraft will behave accordingly. And look, how's that? We're coming up to 16,000 and we're just above that cloud layer. I knew it. In fact, we might fly through one or two stray clouds, but that's okay. I knew that 13,000 or whatever it was by default wasn't enough to clear this. Look at that, doesn't that add realism? That is literally like flying in real life. Incredible. And as you'll see, when we come to landing, we want to be setting our... let's just say we want to be getting our speed down to roughly around that 100 mark, and we can bleed speed off over the runway as well, so we slow down for a nice, hopefully, gradual descent on the runway. It does like to bounce a bit, this aircraft. You do have to be careful. It's like flying a big Cessna or a more powerful Cessna. So Cessna's cruise altitude would normally be what, 120, 130? We're 100 above that now. You can go to 240 in fact if I... Just listen to ATC there, it's okay. We could go to around 240 in fact if we want to speed it up a little bit. You might as well stick with me now because we're not that far from our top of descent. Lovely, look at that. So atmospheric. Wow, 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 wow. Apologies, I'm in high spirits. But I've always loved clouds in flight simulators, especially when they're realistic and match real life clouds. And, you know, it just adds to the atmosphere. When I'm in a real aircraft, I love flying above clouds and looking down and glimpsing land or sea when you get gaps in the clouds. Look at that though, look at the formations, incredible. It's a wonderful simulator in that aspect, and the scenery, of course, generally is just fantastic. We don't have to do much now. We can sit back and twiddle our thumbs. We're at our assigned altitude. Tell you what we can do while we're waiting. We can look at this map. Zoom out a little bit. So we'll start to descend around there, unless I might wait for the until the very last minute until ATC says descend. They usually say it sometime after, from my experience, which is not good. I'll play it by ear. I might just wait for 8. I'll wait till I'm here and start descending, because I can increase the rate of descent if necessary. I want to be to 9,000 here, by here, and then after that we want to be going down to 2,500 roughly, which will take us, I think it will assign us 4,000 after that. In fact, we'll see what happens. From my last flight I got to here, then assigned me to 4,000. On my last flight I had that default cruise altitude of 13,000, and like I said, I was smack bang in the middle of clouds. Get rid of that mouse. I was right in the middle of clouds. I couldn't see a thing, and it's a dangerous place to be flying, of course. You don't want to be. You want to be on top of the clouds. So, in real life, you speak to ATC and say, "I need to go higher because I'm in some clouds." Whichever way you would communicate that, and ATC would say, "Yep, you're cleared to 16,000, 17,000." They would actually look at the clouds themselves and say, "We don't. You know, we've got to change your." Cruise altitude because it's too low, so go to whatever altitude. But in this game, basically, in a way, I overrode the ATC and went to 16,000. ATC continued to moan at me, saying go back down to 13,000, even though if I did do, I'll be in the middle of rain clouds and heavy clouds and goodness knows what. So I ignored ATC and just continued on my flight. That's why I've set it to 16,000. Ideally, go and test where the cloud layer is, or see where the cloud layer is, before you start your flight, and adjust your cruise altitude so that you're above the clouds. That's my advice. Probably more realistic, isn't it? Right, Control 3. Like I say, it's not by the book. I'll be landing by hand. I'll be landing by sight as long as I've got good sight of the runway rather than ILS. I'll be actually looking at the runway, judging it, and landing in that aspect. Not completely by the book, but that's going to be the flavour of most of my videos until I get to the airliners. I'll be flying them by the book, because I think that's a little bit more important to do that with airliners. With these type of light-ish aircraft, fly it by hand. It's perfectly fine to fly by hand, unless you want to learn the ILS in the aircraft and goodness knows what. Then you can go and do that. I'm not too fussed. I will do at my own pace, but for now, yeah, I'm going to fly it like a big Cessna with autopilot. With good autopilot. It's the best autopilot I've come across yet. And that's a big announcement. Do I mean that? Yep, okay, I mean that. I mean that. It's the best autopilot, the best behaved autopilot, and for me it's a lot of fun. It's easy to use, straightforward. It's just a lot of fun to use this autopilot. So there you are. Anyway, hope you're all keeping well. I'm not ending now, I'm just saying I hope you're all keeping well. Rough times in Flight Simulator. I know some people, a couple of my subscribers are not happy with the simulator at the moment, and I don't blame them. I've had one crash to desktop. It could happen here. It could crash at any time, which is frightening. But I've had one so far. And that was last week sometime. That was during the Japan tour, in fact, when I was flying through Japan, about an hour into that flight. It crashed to desktop, One of my subscribers saying he's constantly crashing to desktop. I know other people are constantly crashing to desktop. Not good. If you're going to release a major patch and it's broken, don't wait until the next big patch before you fix it. Do a small patch to fix it. That's my advice to Asobo and Microsoft. Probably not going to listen, but if you've got a broken patch, then fix it. Don't wait until the next major patch before you fix problems, because you're introducing new stuff without fixing your existing problems. Not great in that respect, Flight Simulator. And the Xbox Series X is releasing soon, and this is going to release on it. They've got to get their act together. It's one of their flagship titles. Okay, we're not being... I'm going to... In preparation, I'm going to... Okay, I'm going to start putting my altitude down to 9,000. It's not telling me to descend yet. Yes, it is. Click on virtual speed and mouse down. In this case, because you want to descend to about 1,000 feet per minute. And that will get us down to 9,000 feet quite nicely. Look at the views, even though it's just... Look at that! Stunning, stunning views. And this is just clouds. That is so atmospheric. We're over France. We're coming in to Paris and Charles de Gaulle. Ish. So, okay, we want to be down. Let's keep the camera zoomed in and just move the camera forward like that. By there to 9,000, we're possibly going to make that. I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll adjust my rate of descent by mousing up here if necessary. Ooh! Something shook us there. And again. It's on autopilot, so I'm not too fast. I'll be bothered if that's going to happen on landing. There must be turbulent weather over Paris at the time. Let me know if you're in France at this time, in roughly the vicinity of where I'm flying. It's 8:30 PM on Friday the 9th of October 2020. Let me know whenever in the future, or when you see this video. Let me know if it's turbulent weather you're having, if it's windy, and it looks quite windy in the aircraft. Beautiful though, beautiful. Yeah, we should get to 9,000 by Mopa. Mopa. I've got my volume in my headphones turned down, so that's why I'm checking here as well. Not turned right down. I've just got it turned down enough so I can hear myself speaking. Wonderfully atmospheric. I love these flights. This is truly the start, or the second video at least, of our around the world flight, and I'm excited to do more. Specifically in aircraft like this, I'm excited to learn other aircraft. I think I've learned this. Is it CJ4? Without looking now, I don't remember the name of it, but it's like a little jet passenger aircraft about the same size as this aircraft, but jet. Lovely. Was loving that, and then this last patch buggered up the autopilot, so I'll have to wait to the next patch or a future patch to see if that's repaired. But that's another aircraft I'll be flying as well. And of course the A320, probably modded with the community mob. Because, yeah, I want to do 1 or 2 flights in the A320, of course. Lots of exciting videos ahead. Hopefully. When it does come to landing, like I say, you want to get it down to around 100 knots, maybe just over. You'll float over the runway coming down as well, so and null zero your throttle, and that will drop your speed even more. And just try and land gently on the runway. I'll show you that when we get there. The only thing I'll do when I get there is actually disengage autopilot and hand fly it in. But we should be nicely lined up because of that star, the standard arrival I set there. Easy to do. Pick a flight with that flight planner on Flight Simulator 2020. It's the best flight planner I've seen in-game. In a game, rather. Much better than Flight Simulator X. I've not tried X-Plane Flight Planner. But it's the best one I've seen in-game, in a game so far. You've got external flight planners, SimBrief, which I'll touch upon in a future video. Yeah, they're quite good, but this one, this in-game one, the one on the menu, on the main sort of home screen, you know, where you set your flights, plan your flights, is brilliant. Really good. You don't need to touch an MCDU. Although it's probably a good idea to even A320 and goodness knows what. I'm just blabbering on at the moment. Apologies. Right, we're going to get to 9,000 by Mopar. Start to see some land now, which is lovely. And soon you will start to see one or two familiar sights, hopefully. Beautiful French countryside. It's very different. Although very close to the UK, you can see it's a very different layout, their countryside. Very different sort of farming methods, I imagine. Or irrigation, crops, and goodness knows what, the way they sort of arrange and display their land. It just looks very different to the UK's, but similar in some ways as well. Or familiar in some ways. A couple of little towns. Apologies if I start speaking nonsense. Like I said, I've had a busy week. And I'm just enjoying myself without trying to think too hard. Which is not that difficult for me. We're going to have a couple of little towns here and there. And now we're getting back into clear skies, in fact, so that turbulent air seems to be a cloud band moving over Europe. Or moving across Europe at the moment. Remember, it's now 20:38 PM, 9th of October 2020. Let me know if you live in that vicinity, whether that cloud, you can see that sort of turbulent air moving over. Turbulent clouds. We had them before, but now they've gone. Okay, I'm going to start setting in preparation, because we can see we're starting to come onto our star now. My altitude knob to around 4,000. I think it assigns us to around 4,000 is the next one. It might change. We'll just have to play that by ear. If it doesn't start to say descend soon, I'm going to override it and start descending, because as you can see we've not got far to go now to our airport. I'm also going to start lowering my altitude as well. Oh, sorry, my speed. Pulling back on my physical throttle. The aircraft, the autopilot will maintain our height. May nose up or down just to maintain our height. Altitude. If we can get down to around 200, it'll be ideal. I'm going to override it and start descending rather. So, mouse wheel up to get it to descend to 4,000. I'll play that by ear to see what the ATC will tell us to do. They may yell at us now.
Beechcraft Golf Sierra Kilo contact the Gaulle approach on 136.275.
Moving my throttle down because I want to start slowing down. Very windy.
Approach Beechcraft Alpha Sierra. X-ray Golf Sierra Kilo is climbing through 8,600 feet for 9,000 feet. Beechcraft Alpha Sierra. X-ray Golf Sierra Kilo to Gaulle approach. Continue as planned. Altimeter 30.12.
I'm not going to set up various control. I think the AI is controlling various knobs and dials like altimeter and barrel reference and goodness knows what. And if not, I'm not going to touch that in this video. I'm going to keep it newbie friendly. I'm going to keep it Huddison friendly because I'm a newbie. And it doesn't really affect the flight. This is a simulator. Play it your way. Don't listen to those, oh, you should have done it this way or that way. That's not proper. Yeah, learn to do it proper if you want to. Of course, it's good practice, but don't worry. Begin at a sort of gradual learning level if you're learning new aircraft, and go at your own pace, basically. $200, that's good. I've got my throttle almost nulled now at 0. There you go, 4,000, so I was right to descend. It's a bit late. As you can see, my speed has come way down. Actually, I want to decrease that to around 200, like I said. And I'll start to introduce flaps once I start leveling out, because my speed will drop again. Get to about 170, 160, I'll do the first stage of flaps. And then when we slow down, I'll do the second stage in preparation of coming to around 110 knots and getting that to about 100 for landing. You'll see what I mean when we get into the approach phase. Beautiful though. Wonderful. We've departed England, people, friends, don't say guys. We've departed England, we're now international. Oh, let's get outside and look at those, look at that! Yes! Wunderbar. Wunderbar. Lovely. Magnifique. Bella, Bella. Anyway, you get the idea. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And as you can see, we're now on pretty much approaching us. We're on our star now, aren't we? We're on our star, our standard arrival. I'm going to be approaching that straight line leading us into our landing, runway 09. There you go, so we're coming onto that. And we're coming down to 5,000. We're doing fine. We're doing okay. I want to get my flaps ready as soon as possible though. Another quick drink of water while that's happening. Lovely. Look at that. Look at that. Ah. Makes me happy. Okay, so that's when that starts to get to around 4,000 and starts to nose up because it's maintaining our altitude. This will slow down, and that's when I'll start to.
Beechcraft Golf Sierra Kilo, you are 18 miles west of Gaulle.
Yep.
Contact Gaulle Tower on 120.
Exciting, eh? Exciting. We're coming to Gaulle. Gaulle.
Tower on 0820.655 Beechcraft Golf Sierra Kilo.
give this a try, guys. I mean, friends. Don't say guys.
X-ray Golf Sierra Kilo 17 miles west inbound ILS runway 9 right approach.
Cool. Give this a friend.
Beechcraft Alpha Sierra.
Actually.
X-ray Golf Sierra Kilo to Gaulle Tower. Cleared ILS runway 9 right approach.
Because we're coming on our last leg now, I'm going to lower it down to 2,500. Let's get that. That's a normal view. Let's do one stage of flaps. It will slow down again.
Beechcraft Alpha Sierra. X-ray Golf Sierra Kilo to Gaulle Tower. Cleared ILS runway 9 right.
I'm going to get down now to our 2,500 because it's not telling us to. And that will put us at a good altitude to try and land. I've gone flaps 1. There's a lot of ATC chatter, don't worry about that. I'm just looking at our speed and our approach now. There's the runway ahead of us. There we go. Slow that down even more because we're basically nose down, so the aircraft is picking up speed in that sense. I want to get us to flaps 2 and gear down now because we're not far from the runway. As soon as we hit 170, it's going to ask for landing gear. I'm going to click that. We're slowing down rapidly now, so I'm just going to keep an eye on that we don't go too slow and start stalling, and we're not. We're fine. Plenty of room to manoeuvre there. I'm not sure if that was a proper order. You know, I don't care. I've got my flaps down. I've got my gear down. Go at your own pace. Don't worry about what other people think. I'm still learning this aircraft myself. If you do it better, good for you. If you do it worse, don't worry. Just practice a little bit. Right, soon. Okay, we're going below 100, so I'm just going to speed up just a little bit on the throttle. There we go. A little bit more. Just using my physical throttle here to speed up to get that to back to 100. That'll do. I'm gonna go autopilot disengage. I'm gonna go nose down. Well, trim down rather. We should see the runway ahead of us there. Keep an eye on my speed as well. There's a runway right ahead of us here. We've come off it somewhat. Come off it quite a distance, in fact. Never mind. It wasn't as good as I did before, but there we go. It's good to show you my mistakes as well. Back in line with the runway ahead of us, just around here now. Throttle down again because as I'm descending... Yes. As I'm descending, I'm trimming down just so I start to descend, and I'm also trimming up so I don't descend too much now. But my speed is being affected. As you can see, the throttle is very sensitive, so you have to keep an eye on that. If I get it to about 110 and bleed off over the runway, or even better, 100, and bleed off more over the runway, it's absolutely fine. I've got lots of room to manoeuvre here. Absolutely no problem with that runway. Lots of time to line up. Using my trim on my yoke system to either trim up or down, just controlling that. If I want to descend a little bit faster, I can actually just reduce the throttle as well. That will descend us. If I want to ascend, I can increase the throttle. I don't want to increase the throttle now because I want to in fact slow us down. decrease the throttle there. And as you can see, we're nosing down because of that, which is ideal. If I got flaps fully extended, I have. Throttle down again. We're a little bit fast, but I will start trimming up, and that will slow us down as well. Because we're descending a little bit too much there. Am I on the right runway? I may not be on the right runway. I think it might be. Oh, I'm hoping so. Hoping so. I think so. I could be actually on the wrong runway here. Never mind. I'm going to land anyway. And I'm going to throttle way down now. Null my throttle and just float over the runway. You can see my speed decreasing more and more there. That was a bit quick. Just going to push my throttle yoke forward so that I throttle down. I've got my reverses set now, so I'm actually reversing speed. And if I'm on the wrong runway, we'll have to end the video here because it's not going to give us a taxiway. It was the right runway, thank goodness for that. I wasn't sure for a second, I thought I might have hit the wrong runway. But I haven't, I'm on the right runway. Just lost my direction there for a moment. Anyway, it's going to tell us to taxi up now, of course. I landed a little bit hard there, I wanted to float a bit further. There's lots of runway on these runways, so I could have floated a bit further, but never mind, I'm down. It's a little bit hard, but we're down. It's got quite a way to park up, isn't it? Can't see from there, but it will show us in a minute. We'll carry on with this parking lark. When taxiing with this aircraft, by the way, I found that you need a tiny bit of throttle. And if you're not careful, it gets carried away and, yeah, can be quite hair-raising. Let's raise our flaps. Depending on 0.9, it's not going to take us too long to park up. Let's just park up, shall we? Now I've said it, I've got to do it. That's okay. A bit of a fun video. It's fun aircraft to fly. Absolutely no doubt about it. One of my favourite aircraft at the moment to fly is the Beechcraft. Love the Autopilot. Very simple, as you saw. Once you get used to the Autopilot, try that Japan event, because you've got nothing to lose there. Mess about with the Autopilot like I just showed you. You know, stick Autopilot on, FD on first, Autopilot, nav to follow your course, VS, and then set your vertical speed up or down for your rate of climb or rate of descent. It's that simple. And if you're lined up with the runway like I was there, it's quite easy to land as well. Even though I did make a couple of mistakes this time. And it's fine. You know, a few more flights, I'll have it perfected. Beautiful, we're having some beautiful sights today. Love airports, I love it when there's actual activity. Even though nothing's moving at the moment, it's just good to see aircraft on the apron. Okay, you know what, we've still got... Let's speed up a bit. So you let me know your thoughts on this, please, people. I almost said guys, I didn't, I said people and friends. Let me know your thoughts on this video. Are you enjoying my little series? Like I said, I'm trying to keep it newbie friendly. Trying to keep it fun as well, as you can probably tell by my whole attitude during this video. I've been quite flippant. I'm actually quite tired from work, to be fair. And I also have no alcohol because I'm giving up alcohol for a couple of weeks now. Why is this stopping here? If this stops here, I'm going to stop as well. No, is it continuing over there? But it wants us to park over there, doesn't it? I'm giving up alcohol. It's Go Sober October in the UK. It's like raising money for charity by giving up alcohol. And I thought, oh, blimey, what on earth? Okay, I'm stopping. I don't know this airport. I've just gone over a couple of bumps there. Something else I need to look into. There you go. Okay, I am going to leave it there. Forget the parking. We parked up in Charles de Gaulle. That will do. We'll take off from there next flight. Why have I got a blooming... That will do. Yeah, the airport seems to be a bit weird there. I don't know what's going on with that airport. I could continue that, but we'll just park up and say we just parked. We're too tired to go any further, and this looks dangerous. Let me know your thoughts. Give the video a like if you liked it. Leave your suggestions and comments there. Oh, look at these cars going through the hills. Something's not right here. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. My goodness. Wow.